Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and take you through our reading ELA activity that I selected for today, which is on our writing skills. So I tried to choose an activity that kind of went with both a phonics and grammar, a reading literary, and a reading nonfiction. Next week, we plan to kind of combine and centralize our focus a little bit more. But for today, we wanted to kind of continue reviewing some of those skills we've worked on all year. So taking a look at our writing activity, it says using resources such as books and articles, write a recipe of one of your favorite foods. Explain in order the steps you would take and remember your descriptive words. Draw a picture of your food to go along with your recipe. And then what I kind of did here was I elaborated a little bit more. So our skill that we're going to be focusing on is how-to writing. So how to ride a bike, how to fix a car tire, how to build the tallest Lego tower. We use that vocabulary a lot in our speaking terms. We teach each other how to do new things, but when we have to write it down, it becomes a lot trickier. And when we're doing it without any directive, without any visual aids or anything like that, it can be much more difficult. So if you had watched my video yesterday in geometry, I gave a shape tutorial video on creating a monster, and there were a few steps that I was forgetting. So then when I had to go back and look at my monster to see if it matched what my original version did, it didn't. So I actually had to go back and make a second monster to help with that. So one of the videos that I'll typically show in class is this exact instructions challenge, PB&J, classroom friendly, and it is just this hilarious video that this dad asks his kids to go write how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Sounds easy enough, right? But following their exact steps that they wrote in their writing, it's a funny lesson in how exact we need to be with our directions. And when you're doing a recipe, we know that that has to be step by step, very clear. If you've ever followed a recipe online or you've ever worked with your parents or something and they haven't been clear, it can be very confusing. We've been doing a lot of cooking at home during this kind of quarantine break, and there's some recipes that ask for measurements of things, or it'll say about 2 or 3 cups, and well, that's quite a difference, 2 to 3 cups. So finding out ways to be as specific as possible in our writing is going to be a critical skill. So another activity that I kind of mentioned in here that we typically start out with is I have students sit back to back. So you could do this as a parent or as a child, and you have to describe how to draw a bunny or something simple, how to draw a flower. And you have to use exact instructions, and the person who is drawing needs to follow those exact instructions. So ideally, the person who is coming up with the activity to draw is not going to tell them what they're drawing, because we don't want to kind of skew it. So for example, if I'm going to have my partner draw a bunny, I'm not going to tell them that I'm drawing a bunny. I'm going to say, okay, everybody, here's what we're going to do today. First, we're going to start drawing a circle at the top of our page. Then we're going to draw an oval that's going to be twice the size. You get into those specific details and you walk them through step by step what it is without telling them what it is. And they need to follow it as closely as they can and not alter it to make it fit what they think it might be. So that's a really fun activity that you can do if you're looking for something extra to help with how-to explanations. And then when you go into your actual writing, you want to make sure that at first you're brainstorming. So I would, maybe use a web activity. I'll show that with you in just a second. I would have a brainstorming page. We've been working a lot with just like individual text boxes where we just jot down bullet points of what we want to focus on and what sort of steps we need to make sure. We need to make sure we're doing a recipe, so we need to make sure we have ingredients. We need to make sure if there's a temperature for the oven, how long things need to go in, using articles and using things that you know. We don't want to copy straight from somebody else's, so we want to use some things that we know that we can create and make on our own, or maybe with some parents' help. And then maybe as a fun activity, you guys could actually make it following your instructions and send me a video or send us a Twitter post. Or I know there's been a new app that was shared called Marco Polo that has some some students posting on there. So I know that there's a lot of resources out there for us. There's a lot of apps, there's a lot of ways to stay in touch, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. So if you wanted to start small and stay with our class, take a video, send it to me through email, send it to me on Seesaw, and share with us what you create. Or post your recipe to Seesaw, and then somebody else can follow your directions and see if they create the right thing. So one of the things we've been working on a lot in our class has been on the writing process as a whole. So we talked about brainstorming, then we talked about a rough draft, editing, revising, and how those two things are different, and then a final draft. So this is a simple format right here called a brainstorm bubble, where you write your center circle, the topic. So for example, whatever recipe you're going to need. In each of these bubbles, you would then write the ingredients you need, steps to take, things like that to help you stay organized. There's all sorts of different versions. If you just search the web for free brainstorm bubbles, this one has lines on it. This one has more boxes. We just tend to do them just in our notebooks as are, because we might not have enough information for all these, or we might have too much. This is another one that I really think is good because it has your topic in the center and then it has subtopics. So for example, in this one in particular, I might write the recipe. Let's say I'm doing peanut butter and jelly. Over here, I might write a subtopic would be supplies. Over here would be ingredients needed. Over here would be step by step, or tools needed, or things like that. If you need the oven, temperature, time, things like that needed. So there's all sorts of different ways to organize your brainstorming page. We also sometimes just jot thoughts in our notebook. We just write bullet points, we just write some ideas down, and then we use that to help us form our rough draft. After we write our rough draft, we like to skip lines to try to go back and edit ourselves. We look for punctuation, spelling, word choice, things like that. And then we go into revision, where we look at how we can elaborate more, how we can advance our writing, how we can maybe we put the steps and it doesn't actually make sense, so we need to actually cut it apart and move the step up top. We're just getting more involved with that revision process. And then another thing we look at is having a peer edit. So having a sibling, having a parent, having somebody on Seesaw. If you want to post on Seesaw and tag a student, we can see if they have any edits for you. And then we take all of that work and we put it into our final draft. So this could be a project that spans over several days if it is something that you want to do that whole entire writing process with. This was just a quick template that I found. That's a simple recipe card. It reminds you that you need your ingredients, and then you could have a picture of those ingredients, directions and step-by-step, where you could add step-by-step photographs. And then make sure that you share what you come up with. How-to writing is a really important skill. It's also a very difficult skill to master. And so the more practice you get with it, the better you're going to be. And I'd love to see what kind of recipes you guys enjoy making at home, and maybe we can share some ideas online.